Hello everyone. My name is Zuzana Zatrochová, and I work as a product manager at Kiwi.com company, which is a travel company based in Czech Republic in Brno. And today I will be talking about a stakeholder management topic, which I called the power of stakeholder. Let's get started. I always like to start my presentation with a little bit of a motivation why I chose the given topic, and what are the reasons I want to talk about it and share it to the world. So this one started with one question that I was asked on the interview long time ago for a PM job. And the question was, what is the most important job of the product manager? And I was supposed to tell that in a single sentence. So I don't remember actually what I answered to the interviews, but I can remember what I didn't answer. And basically at that time, every product manager conference which I attended to, or when I was talking to the fellow product manager, it was that we should be caring about the user problem, and everything was about the user. And so when I answered that question, which was not mentioning the user at all, I saw that the interviewers were looking at me, and there were weird faces on looking at me, and I was like, I had to miss something, and I remembered, now there is a lot of talk about the user, so I said and I should care about the user. That should be my main responsibility and everything. But when I came home, I was kind of and also there was few months after that interview, I was really conflicted inside of me, because I couldn't identify with that description of my job, because I knew that my job was not just about the user. It was much more it was much more complex, and the users were only part of the story. So I was thinking how I should redefine the job description of the product manager so that I could actually identify it and like it. And I came with this sentence that for me, the product manager most important job is to evolve the product that he was entrusted either by his company, by the company he's working on, or entrusted by himself when he actually decides to start his own business and be his product manager for his own product. And for us to be able, as a product managers, to evolve the product, we actually need the support of the people around us, either internal to the companies or external to the company, or maybe some random people we meet on the street. However, these people we call stakeholders. So that was the motivation for my talk, because I find that stakeholders are very important for our job, for product managers' job to do it well. However, I don't see a lot of materials. Maybe I just don't browse enough, but I don't see much materials and talks that are actually dedicated to this huge part of our daily job. So I said to myself, why not to start one? And so for the people that maybe never heard this term, because they are probably just starting with being a product managers, the stakeholder of the product is a person that either has the interest in your product or has an influence over your product. Sounds simple, at least in theory it is. However, the problem is that it's not that simple, because managing the stakeholders is actually a very hard job, because they are people, and people are very complex creatures, and they are basically behaving weirdly, unpredictably based on their goals. And their goals are linked to either some organizational goals that they had set up by their managers, their long-term career goals that they have envisioned in their dreams, their character, which changes sometimes each month because they learn something new, and also the personal problems they are going through, which influences their everyday moods and decisions. So dealing with all these complexities of the life, we have one person, and imagine that you have a whole company of these people, and you need to figure out how to work with them. So fortunately, your stakeholders are not all the people in the company, but it's still not the single person. There are many of them. So now that you understand the complexity of managing the stakeholders, how we should identify those in our day-to-day job. So basically, who are the stakeholders of the product? So I was thinking about how to conceptualize this, because each person is very unique and working with each person is unique. But during my career, I learned to identify some patterns around the stakeholders of the product. And I created user personas for you. So I have some examples of like the personas of the stakeholders that I get to work with the most, but I'm sure that you will be able to find some more examples in our discussions later. So basically, first persona that I think is very important for product managers is visionary. Visionary is someone that defines vision and strategy for the product. Usually those people are very busy and sometimes also hard to approach, because they have a lot of meetings and don't have time, and their calendars are full, so it's hard to get to them. And why should they be important to you is because once you deliver on the strategy and vision they put on your product, you will actually get more support for your product in your delivery activities, and support from other stakeholders as well. So my recommendation for you, when you identify these people, which doesn't, like, the visionary of your product and strategist for your product doesn't have to be one, they can be more. And once you identify them, don't be afraid to approach them, even though when they are on higher positions, they are usually there because they are smart, and they are actually very open, and should be also leaders. So they will actually like your interest. However, they may be short on time, so try to get at least some of their time, even though it can be scary. And it was scary for me when I started to be a product manager as well. If you can't set up any channel with them, communication channel, try to at least find some channels how to listen to their opinions, so you can create your product backlog around those opinions. Another interesting role is the customer. The customer, how I define the customer, is a person that actually makes the money transactions with your business. The customer doesn't always have to be the user of your product. This is especially true for the B2B businesses, where you can have the customer, like some high-positioned manager, that makes the decision to buy and spend money on your software, for example. However, he will never use the software. It will be used by some employees in the company. At the same time, the user is not always your customer. There are many people that are browsing your product, but are not making any money transactions with you, because maybe they don't find any value in your product for themselves. So my recommendation for your customer persona is that try to figure out what are your actual customers value, what is the value that your actual customers see in your product. And when you are evolving the product into the next stage, try to never degrade that values, so you can keep your current customers satisfied. Another, for me, very important persona is the engineer. I don't regard engineer only as a developer, but basically any person that builds on your product, so participate in the creative process of building the product and making it into the world. My observations would be that those people are actually gold mines for ideas. The only thing they need is to learn about the product domain, which you can teach them. You should be involving them in your product decisions, explaining them the problems about the product domain, and keeping them motivating into why they should care about the product. And once you do that, you will see that they actually will start providing very interesting ideas for the next stages of your product development. Another one is the influencer. This for me now is the hardest maybe to conceptualize, because I don't have that many strategies how to deal with them. But usually they are very powerful and have a high interest on some decision-making process about your product. And one thing that always works for me when dealing with them is that I try to synchronize them on the goal, on the actual goal that you want to achieve with the decision, not by not synchronize them on how they should achieve that goal. They can actually have different opinions for that. And the last one that I would like to present to you is the actual decision maker, who is the person that actually holds the key to some decision that needs to be made on your product. Something I observed is that it's not always straightforward who is a decision maker. Sometimes I get to the situations when nobody wants to take the responsibility for making the decision. So I either have to do the decision myself, or I have to find some person that should make the decision and push him to make it. Or there are situations where there are actually many people that want to make the decisions and they argue about who should be the one. So the most important thing is to find that decision maker fast and provide him with all the information he needs for his decision, so you can make that process much more efficient. And another recommendation is that you should always respect his decision, and instead of arguing him when you have a different opinion, try to show impact of his decision with validation and data. So this was some mindset about how you can create some identification process on your stakeholders. I believe there are many much more personas that we could figure out together. So try to think about it. But the actual fun part is that once you know like who your stakeholders are, is how to build a relationship with them. So relationship, or the dream of relationship, looks something like on this picture. When we think about our relationships, we wish them to be very joyful, happy. We imagine sitting around some table with our friends and family and being happy. However, this is like a dream, because these are the best moments we remember and imagine in our relationships. However, the reality is a little bit different. Every relationship, even like family relationship, friends relationship, work relationship, or even a relationship with strangers on the street that you meet just once in your lifetime, can be complex. It has its ups and downs. It can be happy one. It can have parts on the journey where it's very complex and there are a lot of problems. And this is like the fact of the life, and we cannot change it. And there is no magic formula how we can actually resolve this problem. So the only thing is that we can do is improve our relationship through our experience. And since I cannot give you any magical formula how to do it, I can show you some of my experiences, how I built some relationships with my stakeholders. So I prepared like 3 relationships I built, which made biggest hole in my life in positive way. So the first one is the classic turning enemies into friends. So I was a product manager and was leading some software teams on a product, and I had this stakeholder, which when I can correlate him with some person, I was an influencer. And we were actually having different opinions on how we should organize product like development teams around the product that I was working on. So it was not good. However, like it was not good because our teams were also conflicted. We were both the leaders for those teams, so they didn't know who they should listen to, and like they were actually not efficient in that work, because one time they were listening to the stakeholder, one time to me, and when it was always different how they should do the things, they were not efficient to achieve any goal. So this on the right side is the picture which I call my relationship journey. And I was very fortunate with this stakeholder because he was very open-minded, and I was also open-minded. So we said to ourselves, like, let's start to deal with our problems, and we started to have some coffee times where we would discuss what are our different opinions, why we have it like that, and how we could improve it. Then we had some more lunches and coffee time. So basically we were investing time to spend some time together, get to know each other, and participate about our time in hard discussions about how the teams should be organized. And eventually we found out that we have a common goal, actually. So we had a different opinions how to achieve that goal, but the goal was common. So we could synchronize on something. And with that, we could agree that we can experiment with the means how to achieve that goal. So every time we will try something else, sometimes my idea, sometimes his idea, but we will always validate against that goal, and that made the common ground for us and for our communication. So lessons that I learned in this interaction was that you should never give up on someone, even if you do not agree with them. You should learn to listen to other people's opinions, even though they are not the same, because maybe if you get closer to them you explore them properly, you will see that they are actually very similar to yours. Another relationship I had was in the category hard to get. So I was a stakeholder on the product, which was internal product, like internal system, and I had this stakeholder which was a user. He at that time didn't know that he was a user of my product because we just started to improve some internal tools, and he was my key stakeholder because I really needed his opinion to make his work efficient. The problem was that he was kind of distant to me. I couldn't reach out to him. He was basically ignoring me. I tried to start some conversation on our company emails and company communication channels, but I didn't have any response from him. So I was like, the communication was very one-sided. I didn't know what was the problem. I didn't know if he just doesn't like me, or if he just doesn't have time, or there's some technical issues or whatever. So I had to figure out how to get him on my side. So what I chose is to actually find out some close connections to that person. So people that are communicating with that person regularly, and see if I have some close contacts there. And I actually found out that I have. So I asked for help to those people, and they made the connection. So they helped me to get closer to that person. And after that, all it took was to actually present the idea of improved product regularly, until there was this turning point in our relationship when he started to come and share with me his opinions on the product, his decisions he does in his day-to-day job, and actually to the point where he started apologizing to me when he couldn't make it to our meetings. So our relationship started to be bi-directional, and that was very happy moment for me, kind of. So what I learned in this relationship is that it's your job to sell your product, and it's your job to sell your value. Your stakeholders are usually busy people, and they don't know, they don't have time to figuring out if you are valuable to them, or if your product is valuable to them. You have to make the effort to sell that idea to them. And once you do that successfully, you will create those important communication channels between you and themselves that you can use for your product development. And the last one is that building trust takes time, and the very important skill you need to as a product manager alone is to be patient, because like all of my relationships and communication channels I built actually took several months, not just few days. So prepare for that. And the last one, the last relationship I want to present to you was I call Smart Ass. So I was working on another product, and I had this engineer who was kind of, I needed to reach my goal with the team, some product related goals, and he was in a position I know the best. He was actually very, very smart, but his negative side was that he knew about it and was very cautious about other people's opinions. So what I like. What it was causing me a problem when I wanted to persuade him about some goal I needed to reach, because when he was in conflict with my opinion, it was actually hard to persuade them the otherwise. So what I did was that I started to listen more to what he values, what is his personality, and how I could gain his respect. And I figured out that he's actually very tech savvy person. I think that's the word. And he likes to talk about some high technical concepts that are related to his technical domain. So I made an effort and tried to study it more deeper, not like a developer would be, but like to understand the technical concepts about his domain, so I could learn to speak his language more. And once I did it, I started to discuss those technical concepts with him, up to the point that we did it actually regularly. And the turning point when I realized that it really had an effect on our relationship was when I started to feel equal to him, when he came to me and started to ask my opinions about the stuff. And that was that was kind of a turning point in that relationship for me. So what I learned in this one is that you should respect in the relationship is not granted, and you should earn it by investing into other people's interests, investing time, and you should base your arguments on knowledge and not the feelings. So those are some of my most important career relationships, and the ones that created maybe the most valuable lessons for me on my journey. I think there are a lot of them, and a lot more of them in my life. However, all of my relationships have common pattern in that it's important. In all of them, it's important to gain trust of other person, and vice versa. The other person needs to gain your trust in that relationship, and that it takes a lot of time. It doesn't take days, it takes months, and I had a relationship that it took also years. So to conclude my presentation, I want to get back to my original question: what is the product manager job? And as I my explanation or my own way how I like to describe it, the way how I identify it is that product manager job is to evolve the product that he was entrusted, and for that product evolution you need stakeholders. So when you are in a company and you are entrusted with a new product, it can be because you change the role, it can be because you change domain, and it can be because you change the company. However, in the beginning, you need to identify the stakeholders, and you figure out there are some, okay, it takes time to build trust with one, maybe some more time with the other. Oh, and then you figure out that there are more of them, maybe because you had a deep conversation with your original stakeholders and you figure out there are more people that are interested in the product, then it takes more time to develop those relationships. And then maybe you figure out another ones on the road. So basically now you have a couple of stakeholders, and eventually you reach to that goal. You get a group of most important stakeholders, you reach that goal of evolving the product to the next stage. But the last important aspect of all this is the time. So for us to be the successful product managers, we want to reach that next step of product evolution fast. So if we invest the time into building concepts around stakeholder management and improve in this area, I believe that we can reach that goal much faster. And with that last sentence and idea, I am ending my presentation, and thank you for your attention. If you would like to talk about this concept more with me, you can reach me on my personal email or in the comments.